This is Family Time 142. We're doing a little goal reflection. This is part of our self-management, social emotional learning competency. And this is cycling back to the beginning of the year. Early in the year, one of the first family times we did was setting some goals or some areas of focus for this year. We had discussed that sometimes setting very specific goals isn't always the most productive thing. It's sort of part of the process to get to a point where we can break things down to these very manageable and measurable steps. But broadly, we were looking at areas of your life that are meaningful, that you wanted to focus on, areas in which you wanted to grow. So I want to do a little reflecting. We did write down the goals at the beginning of the year, whether you have held on to them or thought about them or not. So even if you don't remember specifically what you'd written down at the beginning of the year, I do want you to think about, just reflect back to the start of this school year. It's one of, I think, the great things about spending a life in schools is that there is this cyclical nature. There's a changing of the seasons, not only with the actual seasons of weather, but the seasons of the school year, different sports and extracurricular seasons. There's the different semesters and quarters of the school year. I like that sort of end and renewal that occurs with school. And the school year is definitely that. With the end of each school year comes the graduating of seniors. So you have this sort of an end in a way, and it's nice to reflect back on things. So I want you to think back to the beginning of this school year. Even if you don't remember your specific goals, think about what some of the things were that you wanted to focus on this year. And I just want you to do a little self-assessment. I want you to think about, have you accomplished the goals that you had set? And if you haven't, that's okay. I want you to consider whether or not you're closer to those goals than you were at the beginning of the school year. Maybe your goals have changed. If they have changed, why have those goals changed? And that's okay. I think that's something that gets overlooked sometimes. We talk about frequently that I really think one of the bigger traumas that occurs in our life, one of the things that makes us unhappy, is when the blueprint we've created doesn't match our reality. We all create these pictures in our heads of what our life should look like, what we want it to be. And when our reality doesn't match that picture, that's painful. That causes, or leads to, it's a part of feeling depressed and just not feeling as excited and at peace with our lives as we would hope. But I think we sometimes don't give enough value to the need to sometimes change our goals. If we're not living the picture we've created, we either have to change ourselves, we have to alter our behaviors to move closer to that picture, or we have to change the picture. Oftentimes we have to do a little bit of both, and that's okay. I think a lot of different goals that I've had in my life, when I've either attained them or been working toward them, I've had to assess and say, is this really what I want to do? And then sometimes those goals change. I think as soon as I was out of college, I thought, I want to be a head coach. I want to be a head football coach, and I got to do that very quickly. I was named head football coach, high school head football coach, when I was 22 years old. And for a lot of reasons, I wasn't totally ready for the experience, although I thought I was. And I made a lot of mistakes, and that's fine. I learned a lot from that. But I also learned that I didn't really want to be a head coach because I love coaching. I do not like all of the other administrative stuff that comes with it. And that's part of it. Part of all coaching and teaching is there is those administrative things. But I don't like those things. It helped me realize, even when I was an athletic director, that I do not want to be in an administrative position because I love the actual working with students and working with athletes. I want to maximize as much time doing that as I can, and I want to minimize the administrative stuff. So I found, oh no, what I really like to do is I love being an assistant coach in a coaching staff that I really care about and that I agree with, that our philosophies align. That's what I would rather do. I don't want to talk to the newspaper. I don't want to be in charge of checking all the equipment. I don't want to do a lot of the administrative stuff. I want to focus on coaching and planning for that. So that was something that once I got that, I had to realize I don't think this is actually the best fit for me. And that's sometimes hard to do, especially when we get the thing we thought that we wanted. It's hard to be like, oh, geez, now I need to step back away from that. Do I feel like I'm actually stepping backwards because I'm changing my goal? But I've done that so many times. After I had my master's degree for a while, I decided that I thought I wanted to get my PhD, my doctorate. So I was doing doctoral level classes and completed some of those. And I thought, okay, well, this is going to be the path that I'm on. But that was another thing. I eventually realized, well, I really love what I do day to day. And I don't really want to change that. So I don't know that this other degree is going to add a lot to my life. I like learning and being in that process. And that was actually when I switched focusing on that, and then I started doing more creative stuff on my own. That's actually when I wrote my book and stuff. I was like, well, no, I think this is actually what I want to do. Like, I can still learn and grow on my own path, which is an important thing for us to think about too in education, where when you do leave, when you seniors graduate and leave us, that we want you to be lifelong learners. We want you to always find things that are fulfilling and interesting and new to you. I don't want you to stop learning whenever your structured academic career ends. Then I want you to think about, even if your goals have changed, why they've changed. That's okay. Life circumstances change things sometimes, and we have to switch up the picture that we create in our head. We have to change it sometimes. We don't have total control over everything. And we can either be frustrated by our life circumstances, or we can adapt. And that's a great thing too. So that's not something to be disappointed in when we have to change our goals. I think it's something to be commended, that we were tough enough and we had the wherewithal to realize that something needed to change, or that we were dealt some change and we were able to adapt. Then just in general, I want you to think about this year, what things have gone well and what have been some of your challenges this last school year. It is just a good time to reflect, because even if you're still in high school, middle school, you have the end of one year, and the next school year brings something new, especially as you're kind of climbing up the rungs of school. What is the next year going to bring? And to be ready for that, think about this last year. The good, the bad, the challenges. That's just it's a great practice to have in all facets of your life, and sometimes it gets harder in adulthood because we get into sometimes a rhythm where where we don't always have these clear kind of start and end points for reflection. So we have to build that in. That's an important skill to have, to take some time to reflect and to set new goals, to set new areas of focus. Till next time, much love.